Hey Amarillo, I'm Jason Boyett, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. Today's guest is Marcus Snead. Marcus is a Canyon native who left town when he was 19 with dreams of getting a culinary education. And that's exactly what he did. He ended up at the French Culinary Institute in New York City. He worked at a resort hotel on the East Coast. He was in the Santa Fe restaurant scene for a while. And his path eventually took him to a Michelen-rated restaurant in Chicago. But eventually, he felt pulled back to the Texas Panhandle. And he opened the late, great Barrel and Pie near the square in Canyon. Now, that restaurant, which I loved, closed in 2020, right before the pandemic, and Marcus has been in the kitchen since then at Baby Crush, which then became 2606 in Wolfland Village. Marcus is now the executive chef at the Barfield in downtown Amarillo. And just a few weeks ago, he won the Top Chef Amarillo competition at Restaurant Roundup for the third year in a row. I was a judge at that. His dish was amazing. And so we talk about all that stuff. We talk about his history, how he got into the culinary world, and about how Amarillo's food scene has changed since he was a Canyon teenager in the early 2000s. So here's Marcus Snead. Marcus Snead, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Like I said, always been a dream.
Well, I'm glad to fulfill a dream. I know you're a listener of the show. We've known each other for several years. And so I'm glad to finally have you on as a guest. And I want to start with you the same way I've started with all my guests, which you know is to ask why you're here in Amarillo Canyon area. So tell me what brought you to this region.
I grew up in Canyon. I decided when I was 18 years old that I was going to move away and try to pursue a culinary field outside of Amarillo. And I think over the years of like coming back to Amarillo, Amarillo just kind of has that sense of just like, once it gets you in there, it kind of just draws you back in.
There's a gravity.
It's a gravity to it. Like no matter how you try to escape it, there's always that little bit of gravity that tries to pull you back. At the time I was like coming back, my brother was living in Umbarger. I was coming back to see him and I kept looking at Canyon and I was just like, man, Canyon, like you're kind of having a glow up. Like, and you just kept seeing like little things happening in Canyon.
Yeah, because when did you come back? What year was that?
That was like 2015.
Okay.
Like 2014.
So had Canyon gone from a dry
Canyon
county
had
just done that
dry,
vote? Okay.
Yes. And so Imperial Tap Room had opened.
Right.
And so I kind of saw like that change and I was living in Colorado. I had kind of, previous to Colorado, I'd lived in Chicago. And was working at a Michelin star restaurant and then like a 5-star hotel. And it just all kind of started to like burn me out.
Okay.
Like I didn't really see myself. I could see myself living in Chicago, but I just didn't see myself like going any further than what I was doing.
Was it the kind of grind that people who watch The Bear will be familiar with? Like, was it that sort of Chicago culinary scene?
It's that kind of Chicago culinary scene. And I'm nothing against the Chicago culinary scene, but
it seems really stressful to me.
It's just a little stressful. And then at the same time, it was like, I always felt like the outsider looking in.
Okay.
In the sense that a lot of the established Chicago chefs are they've been there for a while. And I was kind of that transplant and trying to get in and trying to get like become a sous chef and move up in the level. And without knowing anyone, it's really difficult to then be like, can I get into this kitchen?
Okay.
Like it helps to always know someone. And then after that, it's all skill and like a little bit of luck.
Okay.
And so I just didn't feel like I knew enough people. And so I kind of was just like, you know what? I don't see myself keeping on grinding and going nowhere. And so I just kind of was like, you know what? I think I'm going to move to Colorado on a whim. My other brother lives there. And so I was just like, you know what? I think I'll do that. And Colorado ended up being there for a few years, trying to open a business, feeling the kind of the same grind, the beat down, everything else like that. I really wanted to see myself own a business.
Okay.
And when I couldn't achieve that in Colorado, I thought I always had a dream of coming home and trying to have a business as well. And so
you arrived back in Canyon sort of at a moment where that possibility felt present. I mean, there were new restaurants coming into the square. There's a lot of development there.
100%. And so coming into Canyon, it was just like, wow, this is a time. This is a moment. So I worked at Imperial Taproom for about a little bit under 2 years. But the owner at the time was kind of like me and my best friend, Kevin Fremel. We were talking and wanting to open up a business. Both of us actually moved back to Canyon, trying to open back a business. So we had the business plan already started. We had the idea already started. And then it just kind of became like luck. And that we met Ben Johnson, who owned the Imperial Taproom. And he kind of said, hey guys, I believe in you and I believe in Canyon. And I just want to see if y'all would like to I could be your financier.
Okay.
And I was like, both of us were kind of like, well, I guess, sure, why not? I mean, Ben had a lot of faith in us, and Ben kind of gave us like open reins to design what we wanted to design, and it was great.
Yeah, that ended up being Barrel and Pie.
Barrel and Pie.
Which, when it opened, did not feel like Canyon at all. Like, I remember going in and thinking, holy cow, this is something different.
And at the same time, I think it scared a lot of Canyon people. I think I maybe was a little too ambitious with some of it, and I was trying to be like Chicago. I was trying to be Austin. And I think the thing that I had to realize was it's not Chicago, it's not Austin, it's not even like Dallas. Okay. It's Canyon.
So it was a little maybe too ambitious.
It was a little
for the
ambitious.
Culture of Canyon, maybe for the experience and the expectations.
Yes. And so I remember our first few menus were like pizzas in Italian, because that was my favorite pizza place in Chicago. Yeah, they were like these really cool pizzas, but like most of the ingredients were like super Italian.
Right.
And so I was like trying to mimic those, and yeah, it did not work. Very humbling to see you open a restaurant, and normally, you know how when you open a restaurant, it's like completely packed out. And our first few weeks, first few months, it was not packed out. It was an empty house. It was a few people that would come in and they would be like, fantastic pizza. And then it would be just crickets. And so we kind of rethought how we looked at everything. And I kind of gave a lot of concessions. And I think kind of the thing is like, you don't want to hurt your pride, but at the same time, you understand like, it's not about your pride. It's about like what people want. Yeah. And so
you've got to think about the customer, and maybe what you want is not always what your potential diners are going to want.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that was a big thing for me. That was a huge learning lesson for me, actually. So going back in and then retooling of things. We also had a friend that was really gung-ho about trying to get into food styling and food photography and food like restaurant marketing. And so she kind of helped me we designed the menu a little bit differently, kind of made it a little bit more fun. And then at the same time, we started, one thing I always joked was, I'm never going to give my pizzas a name. And then, funny enough, we started giving pizzas names, and people loved it.
575 style.
575 style. Like, it was, because that was the thing, is I didn't want to feel like I was mimicking 575 because there was already 575 in Amarillo.
Well, and the vibes are totally different. And the vibes, anyways.
Exactly. And so I was just like, let's go on ahead. We'll give them some cool names. I mean, we had random pizzas like the prosciutto and grape, which was always a huge favorite. But that's not a Canyon, Texas style pizza. You know, that's asking them to trust you and maybe take a little bit of risk, because that's not what you get at Pizza Hut. No. And then we would have like a pizza called the Spam Wow, which I always loved. It was my ode to Canadian bacon and pineapple, which was a really good pizza. It had Spam on there, really thin slices of pineapple that kind of like, you almost couldn't see the pineapple, but it melted into the sauce, but gave it this little sweet hints. and a little bit of acidity against that really fatty, rich Spam. And then there was like candied jalapenos on there. It was really delicious pizza. Some people always just turn their nose up at it because of Spam. But surprise, surprise, Spam is more expensive than pepperoni.
Yeah.
And so, but no, Barrel and Pie kind of became like the big thing for me. And I think it helped me understand feeding people what they want. Like, it's not about me and what I want to do. And as a chef and my creativity, I can still have creativity, but I have to learn how to express that creativity through the lens of the consumer. And
there's a practicality that's kind of it's the sort of thing that I have to deal with publishing a magazine, that you can have a vision and you can say, I just want to create excellent work that fulfills me. And if it's good enough, it will draw a crowd. Right. But like, you also have to think of the end user. And in a place like Canyon or Amarillo, you can't just make this elevated thing and hope that people come like they might in Chicago. Like, you've got a limited number of people to attract. And so there's that for creative people, like that's a hard thing to navigate.
It really is. But it was also like the greatest like learning lessons.
Okay.
I've still kind of taken all of those lessons with me. My brother used to always quote, it was this part of a movie, and it's basically like, if you play the hits that people like, the people will come. Like, he was like, you're over here trying to be way too grandiose.
They've got to trust you first.
Right. And he was like, they don't want to hear the new stuff. They want to hear the hits. Like, play the songs that the people will like, and they'll come. And so, shout out to my brother for that one. But I think that was kind of the thing that I had to really learn.
Okay.
And from there, I think it just kind of blossomed.
How long did Barrel and Pie last then?
Barrel and Pie lasted about 3 years.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing about like a small business, as anyone can probably tell you, it's rough. Your margins are thin.
Restaurants especially.
I've seen a lot of good restaurants struggle these last few years, open and close, or like struggle to stay open. And especially in the market that we're in now, where the cost of food and the cost of like the doing business and the everything else like that is going up, in the sense that sometimes it's like, to keep the electrical, to get the pay, everything else like that. There were times that me and my business partner didn't make a check. And you
got to pay the employees before you pay yourself.
You got to pay the employees before you pay yourself. And so he, as a person who had just recently gotten married, bought a house, had a kid, all of these things, like, kind of, he was like, I can't go on like this. Like, this is, as much as I know you love this, and as much as I know this was your dream, like, I really can't just keep doing this. He needed to do something for his family. And like, for that, I mean, better man than I know, because instead of trying to go into massive amounts of debt or like possibly endanger his own family and relationship, like, he chose a family and chose his life, like, and that's a beautiful thing. Like,
well, and you see that a lot with restaurants. I mean, I know so many really quality chefs, locally, who try a thing, give it a couple years, it works or it doesn't work, and then they move on. Like, there's so much turnover in that world. It speaks to the reality of, you can be really great at business, and I know some. You can be really great in the kitchen, and I know some, and it still doesn't work. Or you have to shift gears and try a new thing. It just happens all the time here.
Right. And I mean, it's kind of, I feel like it's happening, like you said, it happens all the time. I think it happens anywhere. It happens in any bigger city. I think it's a little bit, I can't say that it's a little easier to run a restaurant here than it is to run a restaurant in any other big city. But at the same time, I mean, it was tough. It's tough to, like you said, it's tough to see other business owners going through that same thing, because I know that feeling.
Yeah, you've been
like,
there.
I've been there. Like, I mean, it took me, after Barrel and Pie closed, after we decided to close it, like a week later, COVID happened.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was right there. So
it was like
you probably would have had to close anyway.
We would have had to close anyway. So it was almost like, well, did this happen at the perfect time, or like? But then at the same time, like I kind of, with all of the closing of the restaurant, and then like COVID happening, kind of sunk me into this kind of depression of, what am I doing here? I don't understand. Like, what am I trying to do here? I mean, I kept working. I went over to what was Baby Crush and then turned to 2606. And I just couldn't figure out what I was doing. I really kept contemplating leaving Amarillo, starting over. I had kept, for some reason or another, like the West Coast kept calling my name, and I kept applying for jobs, and I couldn't get anything. Like, I could get callbacks from different places all over, but then at the same time, all the jobs that I were wanting were either not paying what I felt like I was at least qualified for having as many years in the industry that I did, or they just were in places that I didn't feel like I wanted to like move to.
Okay.
And so oddly, I remembered seeing, I was applying every other day. I felt like on Indeed. Like, I'd be looking for jobs in Dallas, California, like, going to look in Portland, places like that. And I was willing to go anywhere. Don't know how I would have gotten there if I would have gotten those jobs.
Right.
Would have figured that out later. But Indeed, like, sent me a pop-up, and it said the Barfield is hiring for an exec chef. And I was just kind of like, huh. And I've known two of the last two chefs over there. And so I was just kind of like, I kind of started doing like my feelers for like, what did I think about this? I talked to some people I know at like Benny Keith. I talked to them, and then they were like, well, you should talk to Joey, the old exec chef, or you should talk to this person. And I kind of talked to all of them, and they all were saying like, it's a lot, but you should try it. You never know. You might be the person. So I just went out on a whim and I applied. I remember I was on my day off on a Monday and got a phone call back from the HR director, and he kind of did an interview with me real quick over the phone, and he said, do you want to come in? And I was like, sure. I was like, I completely didn't think this was going to ever happen. I did not think that I had the mindset or the strength or whatever to go back into like a hotel system.
Okay.
I love hotels. I've worked in hotels all like through, it was either restaurants or hotels. Your job is to feed everyone. Like you feeding them breakfast, you're feeding them lunch, you're feeding them dinner, you're feeding them French fries at 3 a.m. if they actually, in some hotels.
You're feeding them room service.
You're feeding them room service. Yeah. Like you're giving them banquets. You see and touch so much in a hotel, in the sense that it's kind of like it's all encompassing. Like you, as a young chef, that was the most exciting part about being in working in a hotel, like, because you could see everything from fine dining to a cheeseburger to a slice of cheesecake on a plate that's always supposed to look the same and look beautiful. Like you saw it all. And I was like, man, imagine that in Amarillo. What does that look like in Amarillo? And so that, like, as I started continuing to do these interviews with them, I think I did about 5 interviews with various people throughout the hotel. It was, I mean, from the HR director to the food and beverage director to the general manager to like all of the what we call our executive committee, which is the operations manager, the sales director, some of the sales team, like
the ones here on the ground in Amarillo.
These are all the ones on the ground in
Yeah.
Amarillo. So basically, like, how would you work together? How do you deal with these things? Like, what are your ideas moving forward? Like, how do you deal with stress? How do you do with all of this? Like, and it kept going and going and going. And again, I just kept going. I kept thinking, man, how much longer can this go?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it ended up leading to me being the exec chef.
So you got hired in January?
It was about the end of December, I should say.
Okay.
Gave a month's notice at my job. Then I took about 2 weeks off to celebrate my birthday. It was my 40th birthday. And so I was like, you know what? Both my brothers and their wives, we all went to New Orleans, which was kind of great and then kind of scary because it all happened.
Oh, that's around the
same time as the incident in New Orleans. And so, but it was great to be there with like celebrate my birthday with my brothers, and great to really kind of celebrate like the beginning of like a new for me. And then January hit, and the Barfield is one of those places that I feel like it's kind of like a whirlwind. Mm-hmm. We stay for it being in Amarillo. That's the thing is I feel like so many people outside of Amarillo discount Amarillo. Like they look at it as, oh, it's just Route 66, or it's Big Texan, or it's just a blip on the screen. Like, but for Amarillo, like for the Barfield, they're staying at like a high occupancy rate.
Yeah.
We're staying busy in the middle of January, in the middle of February, when normally in most hotels that I've worked at, you have a dead season. We really haven't seen a dead season.
Well, and like we learned when Yellowstone was filming here, like that's where the celebrities are going to stay.
Right.
You know, they're not going to someplace on the edge of town. They want to be right there in the middle of town. And the Barfield is the place.
Right. And so it's been kind of fun. We're in the process of changing menus right now. Mm-hmm. We're in the process of changing banquet menus. I kind of got to hire, we waited to hire some like sous chefs for me that I got to pick. And so that's been kind of fun and interesting. Is it a little stressful at times? Yes, it's like any other job. But at the same time, is it rewarding to see like now food starting to slowly go out as my own? And
you're not using somebody else's menu. You're gradually making my
own. And that's just really exciting. And at the same time, just trying to make sure that everyone keeps trying to say, make sure you take care of yourself, make sure you take care of yourself. But I felt like my philosophy in working there right now is my job is to take care of my team. Mm-hmm. And by me taking care of my team will help me take care of myself. And because if my team leaves, then guess what? I'm back at square one.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy who's over here trying to help and do like other jobs that normally I wouldn't be doing, or I'd be a line cook, or I'd be doing banquets, or if I'd be doing all these other things. So I feel like as an exec chef, it's my job is to make menus and do this and that. But at the same time, I really have kind of moved into this position of being a people manager.
Okay.
It's
more leadership.
It's more leadership
with people than with the food aspect of it.
Yes, you still get to be a little creative, but you're not the day-to-day. Like as a hotel, you're not involved in the day-to-day of doing just the cooking aspect.
Okay.
I'm the face of the culinary team. I'm the one who, we have monthly meetings, F&B meetings with all of our property, like with the properties of our management company. So we all get on a Teams meeting and have chats. here soon we'll be going on a chef's convention that where all of the chefs, the exec chefs from all of the properties are going to Huron, Ohio to go look at Chef's Garden. I don't know if you're familiar.
No, I'm not, but
Chef's Garden is kind of like the OG. Feel like they were the creators of microgreens.
Okay.
Not the creators, but
like popularized the use of
They popularized the use of them across the country. And so we're going over there, but then at the same time, we're going to have hands-on like conversations with basically how to lead and how to move this industry forward and how to basically make what we're all doing better.
Okay.
And so for me, that's exciting just as much as being in the kitchen.
Sure.
Because now not only am I'm a part of a bigger chef's crew of knowing more chefs, which I always love to do and know all of my peers. But at the same time, it's sometimes in restaurants, you don't ever get a support team behind you. And to have such a great support team is really kind of beautiful because not only, again, are you getting the support from your team, but then you're getting support from the other managers. You're getting the support of, at Valentine's Day, I met one of the owners of the Barfield. And so they kind of gave me his support and gave me like a great handshake, and he pulled me in for a hug. And so to feel these things and to see these things are really great, especially at this point in my career.
I wanted to ask, we were having a conversation the other day about the differences between working in a corporate environment and a hotel environment like the Barfield versus, like when you were at Baby Crush or 2606, which is a small restaurant, a small menu. Mm-hmm. You had a lot of regulars who had a meal that they wanted to have there every time, certain salad or, Baby Crush burger or something like that. And that's a very different style of menu design, of cooking, of preparation than the Barfield, where maybe a guest, you're going to have one opportunity to impress them.
Right.
And they might want, the Italian steakhouse side of Toscana, or they might want a burger and fries.
Right.
And so it's a really different, does it require a different mindset from you and just doing the food stuff? I
think it requires you, again, it's just understanding like who your customers are, what do people want? And in the sense of like 2606 and Baby Crush was basically, my goal was to make a spot that everyone felt like they could come to weekly. Like I wanted to have food that was accessible, but it felt like kind of like that warm hug.
Mm-hmm. It needed to be consistent.
It needed to be consistent. Yeah. It needed to be like not just something that you felt like it was a special occasion kind of place. Like it needed to just feel like almost like you were just going home.
Mm-hmm.
At the Barfield, my approach is more or less, yes, I will have a lot of like out of town guests, but yet at the same time, those out of town guests, they may have eaten. Now my job is to kind of please their palate for they may have had something.
Yeah, they may have stayed at really nice
other hotels or they've eaten at like restaurants across like the country. Are they Michelin star kind of people, like kind of things like that? You're always thinking about that. So you're kind of thinking, what can I do to please them? But then also, what can I do to draw in a little bit of that local crowd? Okay. What can I do to bring in people from the community to let them know this is not just for the guests, it's not just for tourists, it's not just for like the people with money and everything else. I want everyone to feel comfortable coming in there, whether it be I want to have a great steak or pasta in Toscana, or I want to go down into the speakeasy, into the Paramount Recreation Room and kind of have a cheeseburger. Mm-hmm. It's just understanding like those kind of like things. And I think that's a fun challenge. But at the same time, it's just another challenge. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Like it's just a different kind of challenge.
It's just a different kind of challenge. And I think that's where it's fun because then within the team that I kind of have. I have two sous chefs. I have one that handles banquets, who's been there a long while and understands like how things were done and is able to produce great banquets. And then I have another sous chef who just came in, but she has more of this outside perspective. So I feel like it's great because it's the blend. It's kind of me. I feel like it's a little bit of an odd expression of me because I have that outside experience and wanting to bring it here, but yet at the same time, I kind of already know what can work within the realms of here. So I'm the inside guy as well. And so to have both of them kind of being able to bring in those aspects and to assist me on those things, which is really going to be great. I think in being able to have someone help me with some different bar ideas, have someone to help me with different banquets and seeing banquets, and me being able to help him make our banquets look a little bit more like I'd really love to have that kind of high-end polished look for banquets coming soon and maybe by the end of the year. And so I think it's just been fun being able to have all of that.
The last thing I wanted to ask you, just because you've been so central to the culinary scene here in Canyon and Amarillo, how have you seen it change since you got interested in it, in high school and were leaving here, come back, got immersed in it? I feel like it's grown a lot in recent years. Is that accurate?
I feel like it has. We used to always joke Amarillo was kind of like the 10 years behind the curve. I feel like we're getting to a better point in Amarillo. And I think I love the food truck scene that is emerging in Amarillo.
It took a long time.
But
then it's gone really fast.
But it is popping like hotcakes. They are just popping up everywhere. And a lot of it is really good food. And it's not even from chefs. It's from people like you or anyone who has...
Not for me, but...
But even then, it's people who have had regular jobs who are then coming out and, I make the best chicken wings. I make fantastic brisket and barbecue or burgers or cheesecake or tacos or all of... I can go on because I'm a food truck lover.
Yeah.
But no, and... it's all of these people that are coming together. And I feel like that is what's going to help push the scene of Amarillo's food scene further, because eventually those same people with the success might end up having a brick and mortar kind of restaurant. And so I see that's how Amarillo's food scene is going to continue to grow. It's an opportunity with the food truck to have a small amount of team, a small menu, and it also allows just anyone to kind of come in and get their feet wet into the restaurant industry. But ultimately, I think I've seen the restaurant industry kind of grow. I've seen some of the old hits. I don't know if you remember Marty's.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember dining at Marty's as a kid.
I remember when it was Maison Blanc. Before Marty's was fancy French restaurants. So.
Exactly. I can tell you, I remember when BL Bistro was at the Yellow City Street, where Yellow City Street Food is.
Yeah.
There's all of these little restaurants that I can remember that made such an impression in my mind as a child that now may or may not be here, but yet I feel like they laid the brickwork for what is happening now. Yeah, do we have a ton of chain and restaurants in Amarillo? Yeah, but those chain restaurants also help feed the masses, and they also help feed more people into the culinary system or more people into the hospitality system. So without them, the little guys don't survive, because then who trains these people? Yeah. Who gives a 16-year-old this shot as a cook or as a dishwasher, other than some of the chain restaurants? So you kind of need them all.
Yeah, the experience you get in the Chili's kitchen, kind of prepares you for whatever else you might do.
Exactly. It becomes like an ecosystem. And so you kind of need all of them, as much as we all joke and are like, man, another chain restaurant opening, but it's those chain restaurants that help feed the ecosystem for like all of the other restaurants. Yeah.
This week's episode is supported by SKP Creative, and the team there asked me to talk about the Amarillo Tribune. If you haven't heard, this is a new local nonprofit journalism project. I'm actually a founding board member, but only on the budgeting and nonprofit side. Jackie Kingston is the CEO and executive editor, and she has helped build the Tribune into Amarillo's first community-supported, digital-only news organization, providing free public service journalism about Amarillo and this area. It's a daily publication that provides local coverage about all the issues that we care about, including city council, city government, education, all those things. And so SKP invites you to support the Tribune with a monthly or one-time gift, but reminds you that content on the Tribune is always free. So you can read it and learn more by visiting amarillotribune.org. And thanks to SKP Creative for the support. Okay, I'm back with Marcus Snead. Marcus is the part of the show I call 8 Straight. First question I like to ask is, when you think of the Panhandle 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
I hope for more growth. Like, as much as I know people say, like, we don't want Amarillo to grow. Amarillo, I feel like I love the growth of Amarillo. I love to see the possibilities for Amarillo. I'd love to see more restaurants, but with that comes growth. Mm-hmm. Like, in order for Amarillo to continue to thrive and be kind of this heart of industry in the Panhandle, we've got to continue to grow, and we've got to continue to evolve, and we got to continue to rewrite our own story, to rewrite our own narrative. We're not just that blip on I-40. We're not just a big Texan, although we are known for it.
Right.
We're not just these things. We're still this great part of Texas. Like, so many people just, even people in Texas, sometimes you say Amarillo and they're like, where?
Yeah.
But like, we're still a relevant and an important part of Texas. And so like, the growth with that is just a part of it.
Other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
Potholes. Yeah.
Well, every spring coming out of winter, we're facing potholes for sure.
Yes. I've had to repair the shocks on my car twice, and that to the tune of too much money. Potholes have gotten me in this town. Yes. So I would love it if we could fix the pothole problem.
You know, that's one of those things, right now we're in a political season. Everybody's talking about potholes anyway. But it's one of the things that if you have a pothole, you're really annoyed by it. Then if they come in to fix it, you're really annoyed by the construction that's taking place.
Yes.
And then probably it's going to turn into a pothole again after the next time it freezes or snows or whatever. It's just, we're never going to be satisfied.
We're never going to be satisfied. It's either potholes or road construction in this town. But hey, it's all part of that growth.
Yep, that's true. What does this area not have enough of?
I would say this area does not have enough of, I would love to have more rain. And I would love to have that great feeling of just like a rainy day. Sometimes even if it's your day to go to work, just to drive in the rain or to have to listen to it outside of your window is kind of, for me, like one of the most relaxing things. But other than that, I couldn't complain about anything else in Amarillo.
What's your favorite local neighborhood?
I'm a huge Olsen fan.
Mm-hmm.
I love the homes in Olsen. I currently live in Oliver Equal.
Okay.
And so I also love, like, there's such a mix.
A lot of diversity.
A lot of diversity.
Architecture there.
And under architecture there, yes. And then, like, you can go 2 blocks over and you're on brick streets, and you go 1 block over and you're on Polk Street, and it's like brick, and then it's like old apartment buildings and everything else like that. It's just really interesting because also I love being able to see, like, I can step out onto my porch and I can see downtown.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of feel of like a big city, but not quite a big city.
Okay.
Like, that's kind of always my favorite part about Oliver Equal and anywhere in that little area, Wolfland, all are equal. I love all of that.
Okay.
So,
other than your own, and I know you have friends like working at restaurants all over the city, so I don't know what you'll answer here, but what's your favorite Amarillo restaurant?
again, I'm going to hit back to the food trucks.
Okay.
I can shout off a ton of them, from the Chicken Coop. Let's see, Tacos Guadalajara.
Yeah.
What is it? Taco Hacienda, like on also on the Boulevard.
There's so many taco trucks on the
There's
boulevard.
so many
that,
taco trucks from the Boulevard.
Yeah.
And every one of them is like, they each have their own little things that you can pick up on. Like it's either the salsa or how they do that kind of like barbacoa. Is it actually cheek meat?
Right.
Or is it like, because
real barbacoa? Or is it just...
you can feel like that greasiness on your lips afterwards. Yes. And so all of them are great. And then love going to anywhere like Bagel Place.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just eating out, like love Indian Oven.
Yeah.
Love Punjabi Affair. I guess I love all of the different styles, which is great, of ethnic food in Amarillo. Sometimes I feel like we forget that there's so much diversity in Amarillo.
Right.
And that we always just think of Amarillo as like Tex-Mex steakhouse, chain restaurant, Whataburger.
Well, and for so long, like Indian Oven, that was the only really good Indian food. And now we've got like, what, four good restaurants?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're all different like regions of India. And so you're kind of like, you get to try a little bit of something different. And so I love like all of those things. Like, I mean, I ate Indian Oven a few nights ago and still always amazed, or just as amazed at Punjabi Affair. So, yeah.
Okay. When you talk to outsiders about Amarillo, and maybe these are people staying at the hotel, what do you tell them about the city?
I tell them like Amarillo is kind of the underdog. Amarillo, I think, is like, we're like a Rocky story. Like we're an underdog story that most people like, they overlook us or something like that. But at the same time, we'll surprise you. You see a lot of beauty in Amarillo that sometimes it may take a little bit of squinting. Sometimes you may have to get the dirt out of your eyes. But there is so much little beauty in Amarillo, from the murals downtown to a beautiful sunset, like almost every night, or even just that little bit of breeze kind of blowing in, or sometimes even the breeze that smells like the smell of money. I mean, there's so many little aspects of Amarillo that most people just overlook. And if you just really take the time to look at it, you'll find some beauty in Amarillo.
Okay. What's the most underrated aspect of living here?
Underrated aspect. I mean, most people would just say it's affordable.
Yeah.
I think it's also, most people don't realize how much of a community it is.
Okay.
Like, I think most people don't realize how much Amarilloans support Amarilloans. And I think, like, if more people kind of realize that, then maybe we could all just understand and be a little bit bigger for Amarillo. So, and ride for Amarillo a little bit more. Yeah.
All right. Last question. Sometimes I ask about the Big Texan, but I didn't want that to be too on the nose, so I'm going to ask you the Cadillac Ranch one. When was the last time you visited Cadillac Ranch?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I probably doubt if you can ever even see that I painted on a car. Because, yeah.
You could have done that last week and you wouldn't be able to see
it.
it.
You still wouldn't be able to see it. So, no, it's been far too long. I think probably before I left Amarillo. It was one of those,
like
as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, it was on the farewell tour of Amarillo for me, because I think I was that kid that always said, "Oh, I'm never coming back to Amarillo." And she pulled me back in. But it's always been funny, because driving home when I lived in Santa Fe for a long time, that was always like the most welcoming thing to see.
First thing you see coming back
was the Cadillac Ranch. If you blinked, you missed it. But it's nice to know that it's always there. It's kind of a little gateway from the West coming into Amarillo.
Okay, that concludes the 8 straight questions I like to close by asking my guests to endorse something. So what's one thing you would like listeners to know about or to experience?
I would just say my endorsement is just for Amarillo. Don't sleep on Amarillo. don't miss out on the beauty that is Amarillo and the possibilities that are in Amarillo. And like I said, I thought for so long that I wanted to leave Amarillo, and who knows, I still may leave Amarillo, but I know that Amarillo is such a huge part of me, and it's made me who I am. And I think it can be one of those places that, if just given the opportunity, like, it can be something. It's something for everyone. It's not just cowboy culture. It's not just steak and potatoes. It's not just, it's something for everyone. You just have to find your people. You have to find your tribe. And eventually Amarillo can really become home.
Okay. Marcus Snead, thanks for being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Like I said, this has been a dream come true.
And that concludes the episode. I want to say thanks to Marcus for the interview. As he mentioned, the Toscana Italian Steakhouse at the Barfield is not just for hotel guests. It's a fantastic restaurant in its own right. It has a really good weekend brunch. Go try it out. Thanks to SKP Creative and the Amarillo Tribune for supporting this podcast, and to Angelina Marie for editing every week. Thank you for listening. Hey Amarillo exists on a weekly basis because of listeners like you and the local people who support it financially. Hey Amarillo's executive producers include Patrick Burns, Jason Burr, Corey Burns, Josh Wood, Katie Linger, Cindy Graham, and Barbara and Jim Whitten. This has been episode 398. My name is Jason Boyett, and I'll see you next week.